I've been spending more time on TikTok, and I have been engaging with a lot of the culture war crazy town. Because frankly, like, I'm worried. I'm a little worried right now. As much as I've tried not to talk about any of this, I do find it a little bit irresistible because I'm interested, man. Like, I'm interested in the culture war. I'm interested in whatever this is that's happening. It's hard not to talk about it. And how the culture war has touched everyone, to greater or lesser degrees. We're being split off into these little islands of belief. This observation that this culture war thing does seem to boil down to people who still trust the establishment and people who don't. And when I say the establishment, I mean the government at large. Let's say the international community at large, the media establishment, the corporate media structure, the medical establishment, the medical structures that we all live with, we all have to interface with. It does really seem to come down to people who still trust it and people who have decided that they do not trust it. These days, I feel like I'm a liberal by temperament, meaning that I'm super high in openness, disagreeable, maybe a little low in conscientiousness, but high in neuroticism. So, that to me, that makes me a natural liberal. I want to go out into the unknown. I want to explore new ideas. I want to break down boundaries and borders. For the last 20 years of watching the liberal landscape, I don't feel represented. The politics is making you guys cringe. Like, let me know in the chat, and I'll try to move on. But yeah, so I do kind of boil this whole thing down to, like, in the same way, that if you look at it from the perspective of looking at this problem as trust in the establishment versus skepticism of the establishment, I think you can also look at it as liberty versus authority. People who want to think for themselves, make up their own minds, do their own research, in quotes. That was one of the things that has really disturbed me, was the media's attempt to, belittle people who were saying, like, yeah, do your own research. And then there'd be people on MSNBC saying, don't do your own research. I understand the sentiment there, because, yeah, ideally, if the authorities are correct, then sure, but what if they're not? And what have we seen historically about people in positions of authority? That rhymed. I just don't trust them anymore, if I ever did. But I do think there's some arguments and sort of debates that need to happen publicly with, we need to have a shared story. In America, that was the Constitution. We might not agree on religion, we might not agree on, on other things, but at least we could try to agree on the Constitution in terms of protecting individual rights. And I don't think it's too late, man. I think we could get back there. I think you would need some serious public dialogue and education, but, and again, that might be naive of me to think that that's even possible at this point. It also seems very possible to me that the system has to collapse. I don't want that. I like running water. I like electricity. I don't want the system to collapse completely.